The great hall of the Stellar Concord was silent in a way that felt unnatural. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of worlds filled the tiered seats, their colors, forms, and movements blending into a living tapestry of alien life. Some breathed liquid, others shimmered with internal light. Many communicated through scent or vibration rather than sound, yet all of them were quiet. At the center of the chamber stood a single human. His name was Elias. He wore a plain dark uniform with no medals, no symbols of rank. Compared to the towering figures around him, he looked fragile. Soft skin, 2 eyes, no claws, no armored plating. Just a man standing alone beneath the weight of galactic judgment. The Concord had summoned him to answer for humanity. For the first time since humans reached the stars, they were no longer seen as harmless newcomers. They were feared, whispered about, studied carefully, because when the border worlds cried out for help against the devouring swarm, it was not the ancient empires that responded. It was Earth, and the swarm was gone. No negotiations, no drawn-out war, just silence where the enemy fleets once existed. That silence frightened everyone. Elias had been chosen as Earth's voice not because he was powerful, but because he had been there. He had witnessed what humanity unleashed, and he carried the weight of it in his eyes. High above the chamber, seated upon a living throne of crystalline light, was the alien princess. Her name was Lyra. She was young by her people's standards, but already burdened with responsibility. Her species valued foresight and restraint above all else. For centuries, they had guided the Concord away from destruction through patience and diplomacy. Lyra herself had never seen true war until the day the swarm reached her outer colonies. Entire cities vanished in hours. Fleets dissolved like mist. Her people had sent distress signals across known space, begging for intervention. Most worlds hesitated. Humans did not. Lyra leaned forward slightly, her luminous eyes fixed on Elias. She had studied his species extensively since that day. Their music, their history, their endless internal conflicts. A people so divided, yet so capable of unity when pushed to the edge. The Concord speaker's voice echoed through the hall. Representative of Earth, you stand accused of destabilizing galactic balance. Your response exceeded all projected force parameters. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elias remained still. His hands were clasped behind his back, his posture calm. We responded to a call for help. A tall avian delegate clicked its beak sharply. You annihilated an entire species. Elias's jaw tightened. We stopped an extinction. The debate surged, voices overlapping in dozens of languages. Some demanded sanctions, others whispered about preemptive containment. A few quietly argued that humanity had saved them all. Through it all, Lyra listened. She raised one hand. The hall fell silent again. Her voice, when she spoke, was clear and resonant, carrying an authority far beyond her age. Human Elias, he looked up, meeting her gaze. You commanded the task. Force had ended the swarm. Threat, yes. You authorized the use of weapons that predate most civilizations in this chamber, yes. You acted without Concord approval, yes. Each answer echoed like a hammer. Strike. Lyra studied him for a long moment. She expected arrogance, defiance, fear. Instead, she saw exhaustion, and something else. Regret. Her advisors had warned her. Humans were dangerous not because they loved violence, but because they would endure it if it meant protecting others. She folded her hands, light shimmering softly across her skin. There is one thing, she said slowly, that the Concord cannot understand. The delegates leaned in. Why would a young species, barely unified, risk annihilation by revealing such power? Eyes turned back to Elias. He inhaled quietly. Because doing nothing would have been worse. That answer stirred unease, not comfort. Lyra felt her thoughts racing. Her people believed in balance, in gradual response. Humans seemed to believe in something else entirely. She realized then that no amount of data would answer the question forming in her mind, so she asked it one simple question. Human Elias, she said, her voice softer now. What would you have done if helping us meant the destruction of your own world? The chamber froze. Even Elias seemed taken aback. The question cut past politics, past strategy. It went straight to the core. He did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried. Then we would have made sure our world mattered. Confusion rippled through the hall. Lyra tilted her head slightly. Explain. Elias stepped forward one pace. Humans are not ancient. We know we are small. We know we are flawed. But we believe that a life has value because of what it chooses to protect. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who had lived for centuries. If Earth had to fall so that others could live, then we would make that choice. Because survival without meaning is just waiting to end. Silence followed. Deep heavy. Lyra felt something shift inside. Her people had survived by avoiding sacrifice whenever possible. Humans embraced it without hesitation. Not because they sought death, but because they refused to let fear decide who deserved to live. She realized then that the Concord had misunderstood humanity completely. That were not conquerors, they were guardians. Lyra rose from her throne. Gasps echoed across the chamber. No royal of her kind stood without ceremony. She descended the steps until she stood before Elias, close enough to see the faint scars along his hands, marks of someone who had not watched war from a distance. "You believe suffering gives meaning," she said. "No," Elias replied gently. "Choice does." Lyra turned, facing the assembly. "The Concord fears humanity because it does not think like us," she said. "That is precisely why we need them." Protests erupted instantly. She raised her voice, commanding silence. "When the swarm advanced, we calculated losses. Humans calculated responsibility." Her gaze hardened. "A civilization willing to destroy itself to protect others is not a threat to balance. It is the balance." She returned her attention to Elias. "Your answer has changed everything." The Concord speaker hesitated. "Princess, are you proposing alliance?" Lyra nodded once. "I am proposing trust, a risky word in galactic politics." Elias felt a weight lift from his chest, though uncertainty remained. "We do not seek control," he said, "only a place to stand." Lyra extended her hand, light coalescing around it in a gesture of unity. "Then stand with us." He accepted. The moment their hands met, something unseen passed through the chamber. Not energy, not power. Understanding. News of the decision spread across the stars within hours. Worlds that had once whispered about humanity now watched them with cautious respect, some with fear, others with hope. On Earth, cities paused as the broadcast reached them. Millions watched a simple exchange between a human and an alien princess reshape their future. Elias returned home weeks later. There were no parades, no grand speeches, just quiet acknowledgement. He preferred it that way. Lyra often thought of that question she had asked, of how close the galaxy had come to choosing fear over trust. She began to study humanity not as a potential enemy, but as a mirror. They were imperfect, emotional, dangerous, and brave. In time, humans became something new within the Concord. Not rulers, not soldiers for hire, but the ones sent when the question was no longer how to survive, but why. And whenever the stars grew dark, and civilizations hesitated at the edge of impossible choices, someone would remember the moment an alien princess asked a human one question, and how the answer changed everything.